Hello and welcome to Dad and Swebb Talk Sports. I'm Swebb.
And I'm Dad.
And we are the dad and daughter duo talking about all of our favorite sports moments from the week. Dad, how's it going?
It's going good, Swebb. Haven't seen you in a dog's age, but it's going good. Where have you been,
Knicks
Swebb?
in 4. We have a lot to talk about.
We got a lot to... we might have to be on the air for like 2 hours tonight.
We're definitely not going to be on air for 2 hours until you learn how to edit. Okay, so what have you been up to the past 2 weeks? Before we dive into the Knicks,
I've been out
what's going on?
I've been out scouting, Swebb. I've been looking at some young players in different sports.
Okay, what sports are we talking?
Baseball. Incredible story. Went to down here at the high school. They have varsity team, JV team, and a B team, which is comprised of 7th and 8th graders from the middle school, all playing under the high school banner. And then the middle school has a team. So one of your brother's friends has a son on the B team. So I'm driving around one Saturday, and I remember he had told me weeks ago that his son plays 11 o'clock on Saturdays at the high school. So I go down there, boom, lo and behold, they're playing a doubleheader. So, and by the way, his son is a stud. Okay? So, but there's a kid, so all the parents are saying, oh, that's that boy over there. They never play him. He never plays. And it was the last game of the year. It was the second game of the doubleheader, last game of the year. He comes up, and I see all the parents have a big picture. They made up these placards with this kid's face on it. And he comes up, and they're all standing there yelling this kid's name out. Kid never plays. He's probably not that good a player. So he gets up, bases are loaded. First pitch, swings and misses. Right away he goes, oh. So the parents are giving him encouragement. Next pitch, knocks a single into center field, knocks in 2 runs.
Nice.
Kid standing on first base, and I said to the parents, I said, boy, he has some kind of rooting section. And they're the ones that explained to me he never plays, but he's always rooting for the other kids, so we wanted to do something nice for him. That's what you call Southern hospitality, Swebb.
Okay, I love that. Great
It gets
story.
better, Swebb. 2 innings later, He comes up again with the bases loaded, and this kid hits a missile up the right center field gap, clears the bases. He's standing on second base with a double, and this kid is so happy. And the parents are holding up his face. Everybody's screaming. This kid's jumping up and down on second base. I said, you people did that. You encouraged that kid so much. This kid might wind up, who knows how good he's going to wind up being. Unbelievable.
Well, it sounds like he needs to play more.
And then now, Swebb.
And it sounds like the pitching on the other team is no good.
No, there was some good pitching that day. In the second game,
I don't know. There were some bases loaded situations.
In the second game of the doubleheader, the other team, their pitching got a little shaky.
Okay, who else are you scouting? What other sports?
I found a 2-year-old Swebb, right on Long Island.
A 2-year-old.
A 2-year-old. He's the next Juan Soto. Show the tape, Swebb.
Wow.
2-year-old.
Okay.
This kid is the next Juan Soto. You see that swing, Swebb?
I don't know if that's who you want to be.
That's okay. This kid, we can.
There's some better options out there, aren't
we
there?
can go to this kid for loans down the road, Swebb. He's going to sign one of those $700 million contracts.
All right. Well, let's see.
And his father tells me he doesn't have to even be pressured to go out and practice. He goes out and practices on. He's 2 years old. He's not going to be 3 until July.
You love to see it. Starting early.
So
a young prodigy.
What have you been up to, Swebb?
Oh, thank you for asking. You never asked me. Wow. You are feeling good. Well, I was in Spain for the past week and a few days. Went to Madrid. Went to the Madrid Open Tennis. I saw Novak Djokovic play. I saw Mira Andreeva, who's a young, 18-year-old on the women's side, and Alex de Minaur, who's an Australian up-and-comer. So it was awesome. Had some great seats, got to see some good tennis. It's different when you go to a sporting event in another country or even in somewhere other than New York. because the venues are actually like a size where the players look like actual humans instead of little ants. So it was great to be in Madrid. And then we took a train to Barcelona just before the blackout. We got to the hotel in Barcelona and the power went out all over Spain and Portugal. We saw the Prime Minister of Spain speeding past us to go to some meeting or talk to whoever it was when we were standing on the street in Barcelona. And the power came on about 8 hours later, and we made it through. We saw some amazing museums, had some great food. I love, love, love the tapas lifestyle. Do you know what the tapas lifestyle is, Dad?
No.
The tapas lifestyle is about eating.
Oh.
So, yep, I knew that would pique your interest.
Is there any beef involved?
There can be. So the tapas lifestyle is essentially all of these restaurants around Barcelona have these appetizers, as we would call them in the States. But a coffee is €2, which the dollar and the euro are about very close. So let's say it's $3. A coffee is $3. Haven't seen a $3 coffee in God knows how long. Okay? A glass of cava, which is like sparkling wine in Spain, $6, $7. Haven't seen that in ages. And then the appetizers, the tapas, these little dishes, they could be €3 to €6 a dish. And so Mom and I, for a large portion of our time in Barcelona, we would go to one cafe, we would sit down, she'd have a tea. You know, she loves her green tea. She was able to have a green tea everywhere. I'd have a coffee or a glass of cava. You do have to pay for water over there, so that's one thing. And then we'd have some tapas. We'd have some little croquetas, some ham, some jamon. The Iberian ham is delicious. You have ham sometimes with your breakfast, so don't act so high and mighty.
Yeah, but wait, yeah, that's...
Okay. Well, we'd have cheese plates, bread with tomatoes, pan con tomate. We'd have like little seafood dishes, all types of things that you could have. We didn't necessarily go for beef because Mom and I aren't the biggest beef eaters, but you could go to a cafe and spend $15 to $20, have a little bite of something, have a beverage, and then we'd get up and we'd walk to another place, and we'd do that. So we would go out in Barcelona, like miles away from the hotel, and we'd just work our way back, going from spot to spot, having a little tapas, having a little tea, chatting. There were hardly any TVs with sports on them, so this wouldn't have been your scene. But man, the food was incredible. You wouldn't have liked the walking because we walked a lot. But if you're walking from cafe to cafe and you're sitting down and having a little food each time, it makes the walking that much better.
You haven't said one thing yet outside of the tennis tournament. You haven't said anything that would appeal to me. Walking,
Spain is not for
a little
you.
bit of this, a little bit of that, a little tea, a little coffee. What is that? That's not eating.
Well, we also would have dinner and have full meals. We started each day with breakfast in the hotel, a full buffet. So it was a good time. And unfortunately, the TV's no good over there, so I couldn't even watch the FC Barcelona match that was happening one day while we were there. So I missed some of the Knicks games against Detroit.
Did you get ESPN over there?
On my phone, I did. Not to watch the games, but to watch the highlights, which is what a lot of people are doing over there because it's a 6-hour difference. By the time the game was over in New York, I was waking up to go have breakfast in Spain. Okay? So let's talk about the Knicks because, boy, maybe I should go to Spain every other week during the playoffs. I don't know because they've just been riding high for the past few weeks.
So you were the problem.
Well, I was not the problem, actually, because I'm pretty convinced that Coach Tom Thibodeau has been watching Dad and Swebb talk sports.
And what do you think he got out of it?
Well, listen. I've been throwing out some sage advice here about Mitch Robinson being the X factor in the playoffs. Did I not say that?
You did
the very beginning. Said that he was the X factor. We talked about Jalen Brunson dribble, as you'd said. It sounds like the coaches watched a few episodes and then had the team watch the episode and they picked up a lot of information that has led to some success.
Could be.
So let's just briefly go over the Detroit series because right now we're on to bigger and better things. But the Knicks end up defeating Detroit 4-2 in the first round of the playoffs. At times, it was tough. It looked like we had some difficulty with the Pistons. They have, Cade Cunningham. They have a bunch of guys. They had a ton of offensive depth. We couldn't necessarily guard against the pick and roll. There were some things happening there. Jalen Brunson holding the ball for too long at times and the offense not getting going. And a few players seemingly disappearing during long stints in the game. But the Knicks pull it off with the heroics of our Jalen Brunson.
Yes, there were heroics. The Knicks, when we get into the Boston series, we'll talk about it more. Because now they're finally playing ball the way you have to play if you're serious about winning a championship. We'll get into that. And I'll point out what they're doing now and the difference between their team during the season and their team now. Because remember, Mitchell Robinson didn't play almost the whole season. And when he did come back late in the season, he was still getting in shape. He's still not in shape. And he still can't shoot free throws. But we'll digress.
So let's talk Knicks versus Boston. When we first were setting up the scenarios for the playoffs, we said that the Knicks could have some trouble with Detroit, but if they got past Detroit, they would certainly have trouble with the Boston Celtics. They ended up losing the regular season 4-0 and getting blown out of every game.
Every game they got blown out.
The past 2 games on Wednesday night and Monday night at Boston, the Knicks have come away with the win. Now, I'm not going to lie. This team makes me feel like I've had a little bit too much kava from time to time. From quarter to quarter, the highs and lows, I'm riding the waves here. I'm pissed off at the TV. I'm saying this team is junk. We're not going to get any better. We're down by 20. Maybe I should watch something else, although I didn't. And then next thing we know, 2 games, both down by 20 in the third quarter. Late in the third quarter, the Knicks come storming back, and they win both games.
Well, let me tell you. I saw the Knicks win a championship in 1970, and I saw them win a championship in 1973. And this is pretty much how they did it. You tighten up the defense as the game goes along, and you make it almost impossible. And you know how we've been talking about, not me, but you and even some of the Knicks players said they were playing too many minutes and they're worn out and stuff. Well, you know what? Now they're in shape to play 40 minutes a game, 40-plus minutes. And that's what it takes. Boston, they've been blowing people out all year. I spoke to someone in Boston this morning. This is solid information. The Boston Celtics this coach works totally off analytics. They believe that the more threes you take, not necessarily make, but take, you're eventually going to win the game. In the first game of this series, Boston took 60 threes. In the second game, they took 40 threes. This is how they won last year, and this is how they won this is how they won 61 games this year. The difference is, now that the Knicks have Mitchell Robinson, they're not a soft team anymore. Mr. Towns is even having to play tougher. Do you know Towns, in this last night, he only took 1 3? When you're 7 feet and you're 260, 70 pounds, you're doing the other team a favor when you stand outside by the 3-point line. He scored 20-something points last night. He scored 21 points last night. He only took 1 3.
And had 17 rebounds.
And had 17.
Largely because he was close to the basket.
Right. You can't rebound when you're out by the three-point line, out by midcourt. It's the total difference. And then Thibodeau is making some great defensive switches with him and Robinson at the end of these games. And some of these games, they're playing two big men at the same time, two 7-footers. Robinson last night played 22 minutes. Towns played 35 minutes.
Hey, that's the lineup of my dreams. I've been talking about this lineup for a while because it shores up the defense. So let's dive in a little bit more because you've thrown out some really good stats here. So game 1, they win 108-105 in overtime. Had the chance to win it in the fourth quarter. Obviously come storming back. Unfortunately, Jalen Brunson missed a shot that would have won the game, but hey, he had done enough at that point. Game 2, they win 91-90. Now, they are holding the Celtics to 97.5 points per game in these two games. That's like unheard of. And if you're watching any of the other NBA playoff games, like these scores are getting into 120s, the 140s. The defensive showcase that the Knicks are putting on right now is incredible. And I just wanted to dive into a few things because we had talked about the pick and roll and how they had trouble with it. And now with them playing Mitch Robinson, no, he's not in his best shape. He's still coming back from injury, a little bit slow, but he gets into a defensive stance. He's not afraid to pick up a defender behind the three-point line. He's not afraid to switch. When he switches, meaning the guy he's guarding goes to set a pick on one of the Knicks defenders, and the offensive player from the Celtics now has seemingly no one defending him if you don't switch or if you don't fight through the screen, fight through the pick. What he is doing is he's aggressively switching. And he's talking. There's some clips on social media of him being mic'd up during games. He's talking. That didn't seem to be happening as much in the first round against the Pistons. And so that is making a bit of a difference. You mentioned the analytics. The Celtics shot 25% in both games from the three-point line. The fact that they haven't decided to switch things up, this is what happens with Moneyball. You sometimes lose hold of the seeing eye test.
My source tells me they won't deviate. This is what the coach believes, and no matter what, they're not going to deviate. He thinks they're going to win in the long run playing the way. And they also have analytics on the defensive end that they will not deviate from. So you must say, people say, well, they can switch things up. From what I'm hearing, he will not deviate. This is how we're doing it.
Well, here's the thing.
And I'm telling you, this is a reliable source.
Love that you have your sources. They won the championship last year. So I'm not going to pretend to be a better coach than the Boston Celtics coaching staff. On the defensive end, the Knicks aren't scoring over 100 points either. So this isn't like like the Knicks are blowing out the Celtics. So on the defense, we're not even going to talk about that from the Celtics point of view. But what we're seeing is Tom Thibodeau making some legitimate coaching. I mean, we've talked and we've heard fans talk about firing the coach, the front office messed up, all these draft picks that they use for Mikal Bridges, all of these things, right? And what he is doing in these past two games, making the defensive substitutions, taking Jalen Brunson off the court when the Celtics have the ball late in the game, in the last 2 minutes of the game, putting in Miles McBride. And then also taking Karl Anthony Towns off the court and putting in Mitchell Robinson. Both are way better defensively. They're more active, they have better footwork. And so what you're seeing is, if that was Karl Anthony Towns trying to guard the pick at the top of the key, he would have gotten blown by. Right. But because Mitchell Robinson was that defender instead of Karl Anthony Towns, he was able to get a shot off of Jason Tatum, one of the top 10 players in the league. The guy averaged 26.5 points per game in the regular season. He's averaging 18 points per game in the against the Knicks in this round because of the fact that he's not used to having a 7-footer defending him, Mitch Robinson getting his hands in his face, and he's taking off-balance shots, and that's allowing for other good defensive wings in Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby to swarm him, and in both games ended pretty much the same way. Jason Tatum goes up for an awkward off-balance shot, and Mikal Bridges comes in there, swarms him, essentially takes away the ball. So I'm riding the wave, after seeing what we saw in the regular season. Like, I'm not going to say that I love saying the Knicks in 4 because it's fun. I'm taking it game by game. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I'm loving what I'm seeing out of this team.
Listen, let me tell you something. I don't know, 4 games, 7 games, I don't know. I will tell you this. I saw the Knicks win 2 championships. It might have been 50 years ago, but they won 2 championships that I saw with my own eyes. And this is how you win championships if you're serious. That's why I haven't been that excited about other stuff they did all season, because I knew this is how you beat top teams. Tighten up that defense. It has to be real tight. And if you notice, last night on that last play, Tatum comes down, Robinson comes out, meets him by the 3-point line, and kind of pushes him. He didn't touch him, but kind of pushes him, angles him off so he goes left. And when he went left, who does he run into? Bridges and OG. Either one of those guys could have blocked his shot. He was done at that point. He was done.
And if you're tuning into us, you don't have vertigo. Dad just has a bad habit of hitting the TV. He's extremely passionate right now because he's seen the Knicks win championships like this. So we'll let it pass this time.
But this is what it takes. All this, remember I told you, a lot of these teams, Houston, some of these teams just running up and down the court, that don't cut it in the playoffs. You got to play bear down defense, and you got to be able to execute in the half court. And that's what the Knicks have been doing.
And one of the things, too, I want to give a shout out to Jalen Brunson because he, at times, in that fourth quarter, starts to do a little bit too much of the dribble. He hits a few shots, starts to feel like he's on fire, which he looks like he is, then misses a few shots. And against Detroit, he would continue to dribble, and pass the ball to his teammates in positions that were very tough for them offensively with their skill sets, with little to no time left on the shot clock. One of the things that I loved seeing from him in game 1, especially, he comes down, hits a few shots. He hits that game-leading 3 with a few minutes left in the fourth quarter. Then he misses a few. Drew Holiday had been guarding him pretty well. He's one of the top defenders in the league. He'd been guarding him very closely. He takes a few ill-advised shots. But instead of continuing to take ill-advised shots, he starts passing, and they start moving the ball. And that means offensively, now all of the guys on the court are moving around instead of standing there watching him dribble around outside the three-point line about 30 feet from the basket.
Right.
So because of that adjustment, it gets other guys involved. Then other guys hit shots. OG Anunoby hits a few shots. In game 2, it was Deuce McBride hits a few shots. They start doing these. Mikal Bridges was hitting shots.
He scored
in game
14
2.
points in the fourth quarter last night.
And so now you've got guys who are all gaining this confidence, right, as the game is going on, because they're forcing the Boston Celtics to take poor shots. They're storming back from a 20-point deficit. And now everyone on the court is hitting shots and doing their part. And if they're not hitting shots or taking shots, they're grabbing offensive rebounds. They're causing turnovers on defense. And that's how you end up having a very well-rounded, confident team going up against the NBA defending champions from last year, completely locking them down, going into Boston and stealing 2 games. They had no business. If you watched the first 3 quarters, they had no business winning either game. But when you've got a guy like Jason Tatum who's he's scoring less than 20 points, you got to win those games. But the fact that in game 2, Jalen Brunson only scored 17 points. Like this, the Knicks scored 91 points. This is like a college game in terms of the score. feel good. I feel good about Saturday afternoon at the Garden at 3:30. And if you were listening to the game, for anyone who's watching, it sounded like MSG North up there, okay? I heard a lot of defensive chants when the Knicks were on defense.
Well, there's a lot of kids from New York that go to school up there.
Not just that, the tickets are 10 times cheaper to take a train, plane, walk, whatever, private car up to Boston, go to the game, get food and drink inside the venue, and maybe stay in a hotel if you need to, than they will be to go to the Garden on Saturday, because the cheapest ticket I'm seeing is $704.
Unbelievable. Somebody asked me today, do you think tickets are going to be expensive Saturday? Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I get that they have to be expensive. $704 is a lot, especially like it's not like everything else is cheaper in there. That's a lot. Would you pay that much?
No.
To go to a game?
No.
What if it was the NBA Finals?
No.
How much would you pay to go to a game?
A playoff game?
Yeah.
I don't really like going to Knicks playoff games or Yankee playoff games. They usually lose when I go.
How much would you pay to go to like the last game of a player who's retiring after spending 20 years playing for a team?
I'll get a free ticket for my daughter.
Yeah, how much would you pay if I didn't work in sports and get you all these free tickets?
That wasn't it. You bought this.
I paid for those tickets.
I know.
I paid for season tickets to go see Derek Jeter.
Didn't I buy a hot dog at that game?
I don't remember. You bought me a bottle of water.
That was some night.
So we won't find you at any playoff games. I wouldn't pay $704 either, but I'm a little bit spoiled because I've had access to some amazing games over the past 10, 12 years. So it's tough for me to pay that. But I'm looking forward to watching it. I have to figure out where I'm going to watch because I want to be amongst the people. Wednesday night, I was watching the game. And when you're on a streaming service, it's a little delayed. Sometimes your phone goes off before it. It certainly is delayed from regular cable TV. And I actually heard people screaming outside on the street before the Knicks caused the turnover on Jason Tatum and closed out the game on Wednesday night. So, unfortunately, I knew something had happened. I didn't know if they were Boston fans or New York fans, but I knew something had happened. So I need to figure out where to watch the game amongst the people because there's nothing better.
The people were watching it outside of Madison Square Garden.
They were. It's a little too crowded there.
And last night, people were watching the Yankee games. And every time something happened, everybody started screaming, and it was quiet. It was a quiet spot in the game. And Boone said after the game, he said, "Do you wonder what was going on?" He says, "I figured the Knicks did something."
Well, I guess we don't have to talk about what we're excited about because we want to see what happens here with the Knicks. On Saturday, they'll play, Saturday afternoon, then Monday night. Then, if necessary, they'll play on Wednesday at Boston, Friday at home, and Monday at Boston. So we're hoping it doesn't have to get that far. But if you're looking at the rest of the NBA, obviously not going to get ahead of ourselves here and the playoff picture. But right now, the Indiana Pacers are playing the Cleveland Cavaliers in their series, and they're up 2-0. So they are beating the Eastern Conference leading team 2-0, and we're beating the second best team in the East, as they say, 2-0. So who knows what could happen, but it starts to, the visions, the dreams, the fairy tales, the unicorns start flying around your head thinking about what could be.
Well, I'm telling you, if they keep playing the way they're playing, they could win the whole thing. Because the way they're playing now is how you have to play if you're serious about winning the whole thing. That's why the Golden State Warriors are giving people such a hard time. They're playing great defense. They're moving the ball around. And now that, what's the guy they got from the Heat? What's his name? Butler.
Jimmy Butler.
He's like the perfect guy in that mix. That's why they're knocking off teams all of a sudden.
Well, we'll see. Now, Dad, you wanted to give a special shout out to someone?
My main man, Andrew McAdory, lacrosse player at Duke. By the way, Saturday night, 7:30, they play their first NCAA tournament game on the ACC network, 7:30 against Georgetown. He's an All-American. He's a senior. He graduates on Sunday. He's a tremendous student. He's going to go to graduate school there for his MBA. He's already won a scholarship, only 2 kids in the whole school. But they had the draft the other night for the professional lacrosse league. And he did this.
With the 2nd overall pick in the 2025 PLL College Draft, the California Redwoods select Andrew McAdory, midfield, Duke.
I don't think this draft, in talking to you guys, is really deep with skilled offensive midfielders, so McAdory makes a little sense that they would want to go that route early.
And I think Joe Spallina and Anthony Kelly will use McAdory a little bit different maybe than he was used at Duke. He's playing attack right now. He's played offensive midi. To Ryan's point, don't be surprised if you see McAdory on wings, starting shifts on the defensive end. He is built like pocket Hercules. I mean, he's jacked. He's an elite athlete. And Joe Spallina knows this kid since he's in about 3rd grade. He was coaching him for years in the summer with Team 91 and the Crush. He knows how he operates. He knows his lacrosse DNA and his compete level. Andrew McAdory is a certified dog when he's on the field. This guy wants to win, and he will do whatever it takes to help his team win.
And you look at the PLL with just a limited roster size, any player that affords you flexibility across positions is going to give a premium at those roster spots. So his ability to play both attack and midfield, play on some wings, maybe play a little bit defense and get out and run in transition, right? He just brings a dynamic element to their offense that they just haven't had.
So Andrew McAdory, the number 2 pick in the professional lacrosse league. Is it Premier Lacrosse League or Professional
Lacrosse League?
Premier Lacrosse League. Congratulations. Thank you for tuning in to Dad and Swebb Talk Sports.
Whoa. He is an absolute stud. The announcer just said everything had to be said. Everything I've said all year about him, and I told you in our own conversations, now you got it right off of ESPN.
For once in your life,
No.
For once in your life, you weren't hyperbolic. So we will
just remember
kudos
that,
to you.
Just remember that 2-year-old lefty hitter. Okay? Just remember that.
All right.
I'm out here looking for talent, Swebb. I got an eye for talent.
You got 4 eyes for talent,
Yeah,
apparently,
right.
if you stay awake. All right. So before we close things out, do you want to leave us with the dad tip of the week?
Yeah, you know what? I've said it before. You got to encourage people. What those people did at that ball game, that high school game down here for that young man who hadn't had a success but had such a good attitude all year, always cheering for the other kids. What they did for that kid's confidence was incredible. And that kid was so high when he hit that double and cleared the bases, he could have gone duck hunting with a rake. Unbelievable. You got to encourage people. That's your duty as a human being.
And I'm encouraging you to stop hitting the table. Maybe you'll accomplish that next episode.
I'll try.
Thanks for tuning in to Dad and Swebb Talk Sports. Be sure to follow us at Dad and Swebb on Instagram and X, and subscribe on YouTube and Rumble, and share this episode with a friend. We will see you next week. Go Knicks!
So long.
Thank you for tuning in to Dad and Swebb Talk Sports, the show where we cover all of our favorite sports moments from the past week. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and Rumble, and follow us at Dad and Swebb on Instagram and X. See you next week.